Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of Second Pew Podcast. When you leave to get water, but you don't come back. Your co-host Justin G. Nelson.
And I'm Ebony Amos.
We're back with a special episode entitled Walk in the Light. Beautiful light. Before we get too far, make sure you follow us on social media, on our Instagram and YouTube page. And we are rolling out a new website. We now have a blog feature that we'll be adding blog topics that, we want to talk about it, but we can't talk about everything on a podcast, but we just have random text messages like that should be a blog. So we made a blog. So just go read the blog. We have one up now and you will be blessed. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to start with the prayer. I'll read the prayer. You can read along with me. God, help us to bridge the gap within our community. Help us to inspire others to seek understanding and wisdom. Guide us through this conversation as we grow in your word. Ashe and amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Whew, Ebony.
I
Walk
know.
in the light, beautiful light. Come where the dewdrops of mercy shine bright. Shine all around us by day and by night. Jesus, the light of the world. Now, I have a pop quiz. Did you know there were verses that went with this song?
Did not.
Okay, I didn't either. I was today years old, 33 years old, and I'm just knowing that Thomas Whitfield he wrote two beautiful verses. So I want to share that before we dive into the conversation. So this is verse 1. No need to worry, no need to fret. All of my needs, the man named Jesus has met. His love protects me from hurt and from harm. Jesus is the light of the world. Verse 2. If the gospel be hid, it's hid from the lost. My Jesus is waiting to look past your faults. Arise and shine, your light has come. Jesus is, I know that he is the only light of this world. We as Christians have some big shoes to fill. Because, yeah. So, how do you want to start this conversation about?
I don't know. I was about to say there's so much that we could talk about in terms of interpretation. And how we tapped into last podcast, this idea of like making things our own,
Right.
Making things fit our purpose, our lives, the way we live our lives, how we define our God. And I don't know, just even in those two verses, a lot of things came to mind, specifically the idea of no fear, right? And just in speaking about like this idea of like oppression and not feeling like we're valued in who we are, and the fear that comes with actually like being the utmost of who we are, because we don't feel like it's valued, so we feel like we have to be someone else who is valued, not always like live like shining our light, like period. It's like not always being the brightest star in the bunch, because we don't think that star is good enough.
And so, like, originally we wanted to name this Little Light of Mine for this episode, This Little Light of Mine. But words have power. And the word little just didn't sit well. Like your
little business. Oh, I see you got your little business.
Don't diminish my business because it's not yours and it's not, something you created. And while the song is cute for a children's church and children's program like this, Little Light, but no, we're gonna walk in the light. Like that in itself is powerful. Like that's an affirmation. Like I will walk in my light. I am walking in my light.
My big, huge light.
The spotlight. Okay, where's Jennifer Hudson?
Hello.
And
Hello.
I don't like. It was a bop in its day.
It was. It wasn't.
It's
And
cute.
I forgot she even sang that song. That was a cute song.
Oh, that was my jam in college. I think. Was it? Did it come
I
out?
don't remember when it came out, but that was a cute song. But yeah, I don't like living under your spotlight. It's not mine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
mine. Okay.
Exactly.
So yeah, like I definitely agree. It's not little. It can't be little because as I tell my students, like the bigger you show up, then other people can show up just as big because you've already I don't know, like if I go into a room and I'm my fullest, biggest, most unapologetically blackest self, then you won't be surprised or taken aback when someone else shows up this way, right? We're normalizing showing up in exactly who we are as big as we can so that if another person does do it, it's normalized, therefore accepted. And, you know, not trying to convince people that they need to accept this, right? But just if I do it, then the other person can do it. I can do it because someone did that for me.
Right.
So I'm literally just paying it forward, right? And I think that for me is the most important thing that I've really been trying to channel and walk into. Is it's not just about me. It's all about me, but at the same time, it's about if we are to be sowing into others, if we are to be building community, if we are to be leading people to us, where does that start? It starts in your authenticity. It starts in your genuineness. It starts in being exactly who you are and showing people or having people acknowledge that they can do it too.
Right. And also,
not
like
project.
what just came up for me now is like we can't have a little light and serve a big God. We can't. The two just don't work together.
It don't work.
He can't be the light of the world and you the light on the corner. Like it's just you want.
It don't match. And that's what I was telling one of my students. Like, aren't you supposed to like you call yourself a Christian and you're like so limiting? I said that don't match up. She was like, I know. I said, girl, that don't match up. Like you can't talk about it and not be about it.
Right.
So I completely agree with that. Like push it to the limit.
Push it.
To the limit.
Push it, not push.
Like push it. Like he pushed it. He wasn't afraid to walk in his light. He wasn't afraid to be like, oh God, I can do this. He wasn't humble.
Right. And even reading the book of John now, it just shows how like he had that walk through spirit. Like when I walked through. And wherever he walked, he caused the scene, he caused a little commotion, but he kept it moving. He kept it moving.
And wasn't afraid to do that and stand up for what he believed in and for who he believed in, right? So it can't just stop with him.
Right.
If we can do it, we should do it.
And we can. Like there are no limits to what we can do with God on our side, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So we're gonna start with on that note, talking about our personal light. And the scripture we chose was Matthew 5:14-16. And it reads, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand. And it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." The doors of the church are open. You can sing your tithes.
I was just about to say, like, I'm working on it.
Oh, we're all a work in progress, but
we're a work in progress.
The key word is progress.
But how many times have I shrunk, or just didn't show up, or like out of fear? Like how many times have I not bet on that God, you know, or even bet on myself? Due to, as we've talked about before, this whole imposter syndrome, right?
That was the word of the pandemic.
Wasn't it? And that's like, I think
Imposter
that's the first time I had
This is the first time I heard of it.
I honestly probably didn't hear of it until then either, or really understood what it was.
Right.
Especially in terms of being connected to systemic racism
Exactly.
and oppression, you know, like
Mhm.
this idea of, I don't know, I always tell myself, like, the fact that we're supposed to work 3 times as hard and still don't believe we're enough, even though we know we're working three
We
times
know.
harder and still
Right.
don't think it's enough. It's just like such an oxymoron to me.
Right.
Like, this is what you were taught, and like you literally do it, and you still don't think you're good enough.
Mhm. And for me, I been auditioning in New York for what, 8 years, almost 9 years. And, I never forget I went to the American College Dance Exchange.
ACDA, yeah.
What's it? American College Dance
Like it's like
Association?
an association, but
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
was it a conference?
Yeah, it was the conference. It was in 2010, I think.
Mm.
And I was the only guy from my college that went, and I danced. And the professor from Spelman,
T Lane.
T Lang,
I
came up
believe.
to me and said, "Get out of Tennessee." I was just like,
Crazy. She told you to get out of Tennessee.
"Get out of Tennessee. Get out of Nashville. Get out of
She
Memphis.
is like
Get
a
out."
guy, right? Like
She is like she a legend. Like no
she
no
is
like
no, she literally is a legend. Like,
she
let's be
is.
serious.
And so I was just like, okay.
Yes.
I was like, Mama, this lady told me I need to leave Tennessee. She said, yeah, okay. So I stayed for another year. But then I left. But people don't realize that like all the cream of what's the cream of the crop come to New York. And so it's just like but you're good. But we let people that can do 50 turns on a big toe, but it's just like it's either you downplay your skills and your talents and what you've been blessed for. I'm just gonna say it, for a white system that was created to abuse performers for the sake of performance. Because ain't no way half these people doing 8 shows a week on this tight budget and this really really small income, but producers are living large with 3 houses all over the globe. And it just shows that like we go into these rooms, bust our butts, can't keep a stable relationship. You can't travel. You can't do like you let so much of your life go for the sake of this industry, but you also let yourself go for the sake of this industry. Like I can't tell you, 20 I went on tour, Wizard of Oz, came back. I was living in the Bronx. I went and auditioned for Dreamgirls. No. 2016, I was living in Queens. I moved a lot. I was living in Queens. I went and auditioned for Dreamgirls. I didn't get it. Who had an anxiety attack? Who stopped going to church for 3 months? Who went into the deepest, darkest place of depression?
Mm.
I thought I was done. I was just like, I'm never gonna book anything else. Like the tour was the one and done. That was all I'm gonna do. So that light of mine, gone.
It's so unfortunate.
Gone. But it's so many more people who
Yeah.
never relight their lights.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
literally just move on.
why would you sign up, put this light on, sign up to be rejected and sign up to, so when you put yourself out there, you're basically asking.
Yeah, literally.
So like I can understand,
Mhm.
why not, but also on the same in the same conversation, like we have to know what makes us, I hate this word, but special. Like you do have to know
Mhm.
what sets you apart from someone else.
Mhm.
And that's why, comparison is the thief of joy. Like
Mhm.
we are not the same,
Mm-mm.
but we have to be okay with that.
Yes. Yes.
And that takes, especially as an artist,
Mhm.
that's hard
Mhm.
because you see what gets booked.
Oh, you see it. You see the same people getting booked too.
And you see the same token people getting booked, especially usually is people of color. You see those same people getting booked.
Mm-hmm.
So of course you're gonna be like, well, I don't have that. So what am I gonna bring
Right.
that's actually gonna get me booked as well, right?
But it took the pandemic, it took the world shutting down for a
Mm.
lot of people to realize this ain't it. Like, I refuse to continue to show up to jobs just for the sake of booking a job. If this job or this contract isn't bringing me stability,
Feed me.
listen, because I'm not gonna get too personal, but you can't you can't live off $500 a week. That's all I'm saying.
Apparently.
I mean,
Because remember, we're supposed to have like 12 streams of income, apparently.
exactly.
So,
That's,
like,
I mean, I have 4, but
like,
because I have to,
no,
but
I agree. Like,
it's crazy. And like going back to the topic, it's just like, a lot of people found their joy again. They found that spark again. They found that passion, but they also realized I don't have to settle for this. I
yeah.
can create my own.
And my light will
Yes.
be, and I will use my light to create my
It will be
own.
a genuine light. It
And I'm
won't be-
going to reserve my light for
Yep.
people who want me. So, like, I'm not casting my pearls before swine anymore.
Hmm.
Okay. They are precious to me.
Yes.
And I'm only going to offer my joy, my
Mhm.
time, my passion for people who value my light as
Right.
much as I do. And I can learn from their light too, right? Like we
Mhm.
all have that thing, right? So I and that's what I love, like the Antonios and like everything that was sprouting up, all the
Everything.
social media
Mhm.
plays people were writing and like TikTok things, and like it was really beautiful to see people just being like, we're not waiting on you to tell me
Right.
that I can do this. I'm just gonna do it.
Take up space.
I'm
Shine
just
your
gonna
light.
shine.
Yep.
I'm just gonna shine, and I'm not gonna shine to book something or to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be. And that was I remember all that. It was a really beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was a time.
Baby, that was, yeah. Yeah. But even in the church, I find that a lot of us, I'm going to step on a toe. I'm going to step on 2 toes. A lot of us, our lights are hidden or dimmed or like shut back because for the lack of acceptance and understanding. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's like the tradition in the Black church at times can be that shade over our light. It's just like we're not free to worship the way we want to worship and how we feel we need to worship because like that's worldly. But we'll talk about that in a few.
But that definitely is. I mean, we can move on to that because that also is, yeah, I'm sorry, like going back to freedom, like free to shine, no matter what it looks like or how weird it may look like or how controversial it may be or so on and so forth. Like you want to be in a space that gives you the green light to be who God told you to be. And again, we don't need permission for that.
Nope.
I'm not asking you if you're okay with it because this is the message that I got. I don't need a middleman for this.
No, ooh, yeah. No, death to the middleman. Like, no.
Yeah, I don't need, not this time. There are times when we consult and be in conversation with and collaborate with and, go to for guidance. Like there is a time for that. But when it comes to me being me and my purpose and my light, no one, unless it is someone affirming me, needs to tell me who I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to show up and how I'm supposed to express.
Right.
I don't appreciate that. And I always encourage people to seek spaces that accept the whole you. Nothing less.
Nothing less. I mean, it's just, It goes back to the intro. Like, we got to take the limits off. It's time. Life is too short.
It's time to take the limits off.
Just
The
take
doors of the church are open for come as you are.
That's it.
That's it. And that's the only way it should be. Why would we have it otherwise? How does that work?
I don't want to know. I don't even want to know. Like, where I am in my life, they got nothing to do with me. But let's look at Psalms 27, verse 1. And it says, "O day of David, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I be afraid?" Those limits we talked about, they gotta go. This imposter syndrome, and like nothing is and it's done.
Sure.
It's a process.
Sure.
But as someone who is on that process and on that journey, I think it's beautiful.
It is.
It is amazing. And it's not like a lot of people say, it's not all crystals and sage and daisies and like, cumulus cloud. Ain't none of that. Baby, it's isolation. Okay. It's in your bed like, what is going on? Like, I feel a shift. I feel an emotional shift. I feel a spiritual shift. I feel an awakening. Like, it's processing a lot of things.
Processing a lot.
And that in itself is you sparking that light back into yourself as it's like a rebirth almost,
It has to be.
It has
because
to.
you've been so conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
You have to literally clear the slate and start all over. Daily, hourly, minutely, secondly, like every day, all the time, I'm questioning and interrogating anything that says you can't be you. Okay, why? And who's benefiting from that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not. I have to show up as my fullest self, right? And there is this idea of acceptance and possibly not being accepted if we are to live fully in what we believe is our life. Right. And I completely understand that.
Absolutely.
Relationships end. People stop calling.
Friendships dissolve.
You
found a new place to work. It's just like you might find a new church.
You might find a new church, which could be difficult. You might still be looking.
Yeah.
Church hop. Like I know after my dad stopped preaching, I probably visited 5 or 6 and it was like Goldilocks. I'm like, dang, like I can't just get the right one. Is it me?
Right. Yeah. That's a thing that pops up too.
Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I there's some fear there because I found community and connection and love where we were. So of course you want to find that again, but then I had to ask myself at what cost? And that has to be more important. And that is risky and uncomfortable, but it still has to be done. But it's like, again, it's like a daily thing.
Yeah.
Why do you, and then, oh gosh, and then the triggers and the therapy, like, okay, well, why do you want to be accepted? And then you have to go back. Like,
well, even with that, like, talking about demigod within us, and it's just like, a lot of that people pleasing that we grew up with as kids that we don't resolve before becoming adults.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I can speak personally. Like I was telling my mom like years ago, like I want friends, I want to be accepted, I want these. I don't want it anymore. Started therapy, baby. No, I'm good. Too many friends, too many issues.
Get somebody else to do it. You're
right. Sign them up immediately. But I found like, being judged in church for even like, I didn't have that traditional gospel, like, boy, I don't. I can mimic it. I can mimic it too.
Yeah, you can mock it too.
I can do that too. But that's just not who I am. And so being able to sing like in all West, all state back in college, those Moses Hogan, baby, I connected with that. Okay, I would be
Yeah.
where's
Oh
that
my
video? I
God.
need to find that video of that girl in that choral concert on the back row in the corner, and she went in. I forgot what, I think it was Agnus Dei or something, and she just went clean in on the back. That's me. That's me off a choral piece. Okay,
Yeah.
give me some Eric Whitaker. I would
Right.
be sobbing. Okay, hot mess. But being in a place where I can then shine that gift
Yeah.
is beautiful. Like
Yeah.
to connect with choral literature, even with dance for yourself, like creating a piece to as we call it, like word made flesh, being able to
Mhm.
just dance and minister to those things. And it doesn't have to be performance, it can be in prayer, it can be creative writing, it can
Mhm.
be usher. Baby, ushers are the most slept on position in the church, but
Talk
baby,
about it. Let's talk about it in terms of care, in terms of like
hospitality.
care, hospitality, communion, connection, collective, like
Mhm.
service.
Thank you.
Let's
Service.
talk about it. And that's just like they're so centered in
Mhm.
that. Like that is so like it just feels so whole. Like I know exactly who I am.
Mhm.
I don't have to be on the front. I don't have to be in the front. I don't have to be seen. I don't have to be what is it called? Affirmed. I don't have to be validated. Like
Mhm.
this is my gift.
Yeah.
And
It's
I'm
your
like,
purpose.
it's my purpose and affirm it, honey.
Exactly. And it's so beautiful to just watch them stand at the door. You know, the gloves on behind the back. And they go to, and like, yeah, growing up, I used to be like, okay, calm down, two seats, two seats. But like the older I get, it's like, baby, like, that's a gift. Cause I couldn't do that. I'm
Okay,
like, don't sit where you want to sit.
okay, calm
I
down.
don't care.
Yeah.
Ooh, get
Yeah.
out my face.
Yeah,
But
I know. Yeah, I feel
it's
you.
just
That's why we
beautiful.
love the usher marches because it was a time for them to now like show out. You know what I mean? Like it was the one
Baby,
time we got for them to put on airs
just
when they're
love it.
usually, like not humble, but when they're usually just like the work of this people of service that are buzzing around us that we really don't acknowledge, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
As much. So yeah, I think that's beautiful. I also dang, I had it when we talk about acceptance in terms of I lost it.
It's okay. It'll pop back.
It will, it shall.
It shall. But like going back to the ushers real quick, with the
Yes,
they're the first people. They're the first people most people see when they come to your church,
first line defense.
and when they have when they all white, that's that light. They're just like boom, like
Clean.
welcome to church. Like here we are, and we don't appreciate them enough. So I'm
Right?
gonna tell the usher Sunday I appreciate you all because
Usher
I can never,
appreciation post. Yes,
yeah,
we love it. They're always there. And
always, even when they want to be, because sometimes
even
they
when probably like, even when they don't want to be.
like, I got some food in the oven. We need to hurry up. When the service up, honey.
Right. No, I think it's really great. That to me, that is a perfect example of like a light that shines so brightly that people may just not
Mhm.
even realize. Like just because again, you're not in the spot,
Right.
right, in front of everyone doesn't mean that your light is dimmer than
Hmm.
anyone else's.
Right.
No. It's such a unsung hero.
Literally. That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Literally.
Hero, like your light don't have to be that like and I do appreciate that too, like we're defining what that is for ourselves.
Hmm.
We're defining that power, like what power can look like.
Because look, this is very technical, so please reel me back in. But
Mhm.
with lights, there are different types of lights. You have a 60 watt, a 40 watt. You have an outdoor, you have an indoor. You have a soft, you have a clear, you have a Edison bulb. I really love those. But like even my lights in here, like they have filters on it. So like while filters are great to like protect the eyes of others, sometimes they're not necessary in all spaces.
Okay.
So like you go to a photo shoot, you can't bright light on certain skin ain't good.
Mhm.
But light when manipulated properly makes you look 10 times better.
Absolutely.
So we gonna stop there before I go into a whole light
But I
theory.
see where you were going.
But it's the thing, like how do you portray your light? You know,
Right.
like, are you a 60 watt? Are you a 40 watt? Are you an Edison bulb? Like, what does the light say about your personality and your walk with God?
Right.
Are you changing it? Are you going from 20 to 40 to 60?
And
Can you
that's
be indoor, outdoor?
and
Like,
that's fine. And they all are valuable.
they all are value. Because Norma, when I went home, she was like, I want brighter lights. I was just like, okay,
Let's go.
yeah, I gotta change them, but they're gonna be bright,
Right.
you know?
They all are valuable.
Yeah. But this takes us to the last point. Do all things without grumbling or disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding fast to the word of life, so that in the day of Christ I may be proud that I did not run in vain or labor in vain.
That's a lot.
The light within our community.
Okay, so my point came back to me.
Perfect.
I said the word humble.
Mm. Mm.
And this idea of humble being a sort of virtue.
Okay.
And how I feel like if someone tells me that I need to humble myself, that it's a projection. Because you can't show up the way you want to. So you would like for me to do the same. I am not speaking on arrogance, or maybe I am. Why do we shun people who show up completely, utterly as themselves? I know personally, I have done that. You need to sit down somewhere. Or or even your parents, like, you're pulling too much attention, right? And so
Mm.
in that, like, we were basically, even I know, like, let me speak from the I was conditioned to not stand out,
Same.
to not be too smart, to not, you don't
Mm.
want to think you're better than someone else. Uh, but like, stop. Oh, you think you're all that? You think you're like, yes, and so that also has been
Mm.
things that I've been working through in terms of how I'm showing up and how I'm seeing other people show up and why it affects me.
Mm-mm. Mm. Mhm.
And like questioning, like, okay, well, you could do that too if you weren't so, scared. You could do that too if you were willing to possibly not get the outcome that you were looking for.
Yeah.
Also,
Mhm.
so that was my thing, like this humbleness,
Mhm.
this meek, this down here, right? This,
Mhm.
we let's get out of that.
Mhm.
We are such beautiful beings
Mhm.
who have so much light and immense joy and talent and just radiance to offer. Time out for being humble, because
Yeah.
people will humble you to the point of you not moving
Mhm.
and they flourishing,
Mhm.
but you humble again. You're telling me this to benefit who?
Humble is the filter. If you remember the filter I was telling you about that we put on, yeah. Humble is the filter, and like that. I mean, what you just said spoke to the little Justin that I'm healing in therapy, and how even in college, I being the only Black music education major, baby, that my light, Justin, you're so good. I'm just like, like I don't want to not
Thank
shine
you.
too hard.
Oh no, I'm not. Yes, you are.
I
Own it.
was. Yeah.
You were.
And even going back to elementary school, like, baby, them dance solos, I own those. And I was just like, yeah, Justin, you had a real bad. No, they need to come up. Because ain't no, they need to come up. And that's it. Period.
So humble is the filter we put on to be accepted. That's how I feel. Because no one likes someone who's better than or whatever, you know.
Man.
Humble is the filter we put on to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And though none of the verses we read today said anything about fitting in.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay? No. Fit in where?
Mm-mm.
How?
And see, humble can also be considered some type of, well, the filter aspect can be delusion, because there are some people who mimic, like we said, some people can mimic other people so well, but their light is flickering, like it's like it's ticking somewhere.
It's glitching.
But the filter makes it look good. So there are a lot of things that happen with the filter that allow either the humbleness to, be a block, or the filter is delusion.
It's because you think you're doing one thing and it's really showing up as the other. And there, I always think about how long you can get away with trying to be someone else. Like, how long is that gonna last? It's not sustainable.
It's not.
It's not sustainable.
But a lot of times we talk about the light, but we don't talk about the shadow that comes with the light. And depending on the way the light is shining on you, the shadow can be bigger. So that goes to a lot of people's egos. Like, you might think you shining bright, but your shadow and all the I can't cuss on this podcast that you go through is in the background. That's why we have shadow work. Okay, your light is bright, but the shadow is bigger.
You cannot have light without darkness.
You can't.
Yeah, it's not possible. Can we go back to that third part? There was something that stood out to me.
The third verse?
Yeah.
Let me see. It was, which one was it?
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Here we go.
Something about this idea of crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as light in the world. I had a very visceral response to that in terms of how one would go about defining the idea of being crooked and twisted. I know that there is a tradition in which we do define that by,
right.
You know what I mean? Traditionally, the way we define that. But I would like to change that definition to those who don't allow people to show. It's twisted, those who don't allow people to show up in the fullness of who they are in terms of sexuality, spirituality. That, for me, is my idea of crooked and twisted. And I would like to pull them over to the other side so that they can let people be.
Yeah, period.
Like, I know what you're thinking when you hear this. If you are a church kid, you know where your mind goes. Yeah. But as we're redefining things in the way God shows up, like, let's look at this a different way. Let's look at this as, not that.
Period. We don't even have to overcomplicate it. It's just like, let's not look at it like that,
Let's not look at it like, let's look at twisted. Like, we need to be lights for them.
Yes.
Anyone who would want to dim someone else, that's crooked. That's twisted. That's wrong. And you need to examine why. Especially as a person in the church who's supposed to love and connect and so on and so, especially at you. Because sometimes we think we're talking about the non-believers. And the non-believers have the open arms.
It's the people on that front pew. Those are the ones that need to remove the filter from their lives, so that they can see that they're the twisted and the crooked.
Yeah, anytime, especially when it has nothing to do with you. Like, especially if it keeps you from connecting with those who you are supposed to love. That's twisted.
Yeah, that's that shadow I was telling you about. That shadow people refuse to look into. That's what that is.
We need to have a conversation. I need to pull you over here to the light.
And have a seat. Sit in
Let's
my light.
talk.
Sit in my light.
Let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you how we can do this together. Let me show you how beneficial this is. You know, all the work we're doing to pull people in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how to keep them there
and recharge their light. Give them some new batteries, you know.
Give them, and or even honor the light that they're bringing in.
Yeah, it might be 20 watts. We 60, they 20. It's fine. They shining.
It could be 100,000, like, and not being jealous. You know, like there's so many things around that that deserves an inquiry. It deserves a conversation. It deserves a reconfig. Like, what is it? Like a reassessment.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that stood out to me about that one.
No, I mean, I think this whole episode, we took light and we shifted it to fit a lot of communities and people, and like even this final section is like why we created Second Pew, you know, is to shine our light and to show people that their light, their voice, their lifestyle, everything is accepted, you know, in God's
valued,
absolutely, and it's value and it has purpose, and like to find whatever it is that's going to spark that light for you to walk in the light.
Absolutely.
Fully.
And no filters. Right with you. No filter, like fully, like we're right there with you. Yes. Like we're showing up too. And we know it's hard. We're not doing anything that we're not doing, we're not saying anything that we're not trying to do ourselves. Right. And I do want to point out that even on this podcast, like we don't have like all the answers. These are literally like the conversations that we have every day. We're asking questions that might not ever be answered. Because even when we're talking, we're like, well, what about this? Well, you know about that? Well, what about, like, it's so gray. Yeah. Nothing is black and white. But that's also the beauty of it to me, is that it's limitless. It's all limitless because God is limitless.
Take the limits off.
So the conversations about him also can be limitless.
Yeah.
Nothing is off limits. It's all honest. It's all genuine, and it's all for a bigger purpose, whether it's our own purpose or whoever. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity to even like, even if it's just me and you talking about this and no one ever watches.
Listen, my light is brighter because of you. You know, like because we feed into each other. Yeah. I've gone from 40 to 60 watts. Like, you know, I feel good, and the more I communicate with other people, indoor, outdoor, like I feel like my light shifts, but it doesn't dim. It never goes back. It only gets brighter. I don't know who the fire people looking for, but that's another light.
I feel like every time I'm like when I was in New York, I feel like it's like every hour it's a fire or an ambulance.
Every time.
I'm like,
and they don't like each other. The police department and the fire department don't like each other. It's a whole different topic. But we're going to close with our affirmations.
Yes, our affirmation. You know, I love me a good I am. You know, I love me a good affirmation.
There you go.
Yeah, so affirmations for this topic specifically, you can say them with me. You can say them quietly to yourself as a prayer or a benediction, if you will. But the first one is, before we start, we have to say these and also believe them. So, I am a luminous and limitless being. All I need, I already have. I am proud of who I am, and I have no fear. I needed those today.
I did too. Ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I
need it though. I mean, it's hard out here.
It is. It ain't gonna lie. Like, and like, you know, we we put out the first episode, and it took some time to get to this second episode, but everything works according to God's plan.
Mm.
And He wanted us to talk about this today,
Yeah, I
and
need
not 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in.
Yes, thank
Be sure
you.
to follow us on social media. We're on YouTube and Instagram. We are at Second Pew Podcast. Thank you so much, and
Thank
we
you
will
all.
be back with another episode. Okay, bye.